What's happening, guys? So I actually had a question from a subscriber about a week or two ago asking about my deload or taper protocol and kind of going over some of the things that I would do for a typical deload. So I want to take this opportunity to go over that, and plus I haven't given you any lifting footage for a while, so I thought I would overlay some lifting footage to kind of show you what I've been doing recently while I talk about this. I'm actually in the last week of my transition to get into my next block now. I think I'm going to start getting a little bit heavier as I think I'm about 12 weeks out for my next meet, so I've got time for 2 more blocks here, and these will be just kind of some of the lifts that I've been doing in the meantime. So when it comes to a taper or a deload, there are several different ways you can go about doing it. There's no one hard, steadfast way that I can just say everyone should do their deloads or tapers like this. It's not how it works. But what is always true is there's basically 2 things you want to accomplish when you go into a taper. You want to go light enough that you can actually recover from the stresses that you put your body through, but you also want to stay heavy enough that you don't lose any strength during the taper process. So it's kind of a delicate balance. Now, how to go about doing it? Like I said, there's many different ways to do it. Some people will do something just as simple as do exactly what they would normally do during a normal week, but they'll just take it and do 60% of their normal weight and just call it good. And there's nothing wrong with that. That works just fine, especially for kind of a typical bodybuilder style of a routine. What I typically do is I'll usually drop the sets a little bit. So if I was doing 3, 4, or 5 sets of each exercise, I'll actually only do 2 or 3 sets, and then I'll drop my load by probably about 15 to 20%. So it just kind of depends on what I'm doing. But say I was doing 400 pounds for sets of 5, well, now my 5s are probably going to be more like somewhere between maybe 300 and 335 pounds or something like that. So like I said, enough to drop the weight, get some recovery, but still able to maintain strength so you don't go through too much detraining. Detraining is a real bitch. You do not want to let this happen. And a lot of people say, well, just take a week off from training, don't do anything, make sure you recover, then come back to it. Well, if you do that, you're gonna detrain. It doesn't seem like a week's a lot, but it's enormous. And you're gonna come back and you're gonna have one workout and you're gonna be extremely sore, and then your performance is gonna suffer for the rest of the week because of how sore you are, and it's gonna be harder to get back into your normal routine. So that's why it's important to continue to go to the gym and do work while you recover, instead of just taking a whole week off or whatever and just resting. The other thing I hear all the time is, well, a deload's supposed to be a week long. Now, a deload can be a week long, but it doesn't have to be a week long. And what really has to happen from a taper or deload is you gotta make sure that you're fully recovered and able to go into your next phase of training. That could take 3 or 4 days, it could take a week, it could take 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how overreached you are from your previous training cycle or your previous training block. So you gotta keep that in mind. You wanna make sure that you are deloading or tapering long enough so that you feel completely refreshed and able to go back into the gym full tilt again. How long this takes is going to depend on a lot of different things, but I can't stress enough to not jump back into your training too fast, especially if you're really overreached from your last training block. This is actually a problem that I had after my last meet. We went through an introductory week. We even went through a second week of kind of increasing the intensity a little bit, but still not going full tilt. So I pretty much had 2 weeks to do some recovery, and I thought I was okay. I was feeling a little bit better, and I thought everything would be fine, and it just ended up accumulating into this big mess. By the time I started getting towards the end of my block, I wasn't able to finish my whole block because I was just so overreached and dead and tired that it just completely drained me. And I really believe it was because I didn't take long enough period to allow my body to recover the way I needed to. Now, another mistake a lot of people make is they will say, well, I'm not going to go heavy during a deload, I'm just going to go with light weights, but I'm still going to work kind of like a max effort. So instead of doing sets of 3 to 5 or whatever, they're going to do sets of 10 to 12 to up to 15, but they're still going to be pushing close to failure. Your body is not going to recover if you do this. Just because the weight's lighter doesn't mean you're not still putting a big stress on your body if you're going really hard and going close to failure. You have to drop your workload. You have to make sure you recover, so don't make that mistake. So bottom line, tapering and deloading, it's different for everybody. It's even different for yourself depending on how stressed your body is and what kind of recovery you're going through, how good your diet is, how good your sleep is, how good your stress levels are. All those kind of things are going to come into play on how you're going to recover. But the key thing is you got to make sure you keep training. You got to drop the intensity enough that you're able to recover, but you need to make sure you're using enough intensity that you don't lose any strength and detrain in the process. So I hope that helps. Thank you guys for watching. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you for sure. If you liked the video, please leave it a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.